This is our August 17th Bowling Green, Warren County Planning Commission meeting, and appreciate everybody being here tonight. And commissioners, thank you for your help, staff. And so, McKenna, if you would call the roll, please.
Commissioner Drain. Commissioner Gay.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Commissioner Vitale.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert.
Yes, ma'am.
And Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioners, you have the minutes from our August 3rd meeting in your packets. Are there any questions? Would call for a motion, please.
Make a motion the minutes be approved.
Second.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Commissioner Vitale.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Drain.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gay.
Ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Warren.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioners, you have the subdivision site development plans in your packets. Are there any questions? All right, hearing none. Ben, is there any old business? No business? Old business? Mr. Moore, if you would, we're entering into our public hearing. If you would.
Sure will, Mr. Warren. Thank you. I request that you order that the record tonight include all relevant statutory and regulatory provisions, the Commission's entire file for each of the two applications on your docket, and the qualifications of each staff witness. Finally, I'd ask that you administer the oath to each of them.
Swear to tell the truth? Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right, our first public hearing tonight is 2023-34Z County. Chandler Holdings, LLC, care of David Chandler, has filed an application to rezone approximately 85.4 acres located at 0 and 988 Nashville Road from agriculture to RS1D, single-family residential, RM4, multifamily residential, general business, and P, public with a general development plan. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Warren. So this one should look pretty familiar to you. We had it not too long ago for a future land use map amendment, and now we're back for the rezoning. So as you mentioned, it's a mix of single-family residential, multifamily residential, and commercial uses, as well as a proposed new school, I believe an elementary school. We are looking at the proposal. We're looking at 626 units, up to 626 units total, 575 multifamily, 54 single-family, includes 5 commercial lots, as well as the proposed elementary school. As you mentioned, the current zoning is ag, proposing to rezone to RS1D for the single family, RM4 multifamily, general business for the commercial, and public for the school. The future land use, in May, we did a future land use map amendment to go from low-density residential to high-density residential, commercial, and institutional government, which was approved by this body. As far as compatibility with the comprehensive plan, staff found the application to be in compliance with some, but not all of the applicable review criteria from the Focus 2030 comprehensive plan. We have noted several considerations. They're very similar to what we had at the future land use map amendment as regarding the transportation infrastructure and the TIS requirements. Sinkholes, which I think the applicant's prepared to address tonight, loss of prime farmland, lack of preservation of the historic Merritt Hardin home, the density, surrounding land uses, the bulk and height of proposed structures, and the proposed open space recreational amenities. And I'll just touch on a couple of those and mention, I'll start with density. The density is proposed to increase from what we saw at the last meeting. The RM4 multifamily section is now 14 dwelling units per acre. That's up 12.3 from 12.39 previously, so an increase of 1.61 dwelling units per acre. The overall density is up from 10.44 to now 11.67 dwelling units per acre, which is 1.523 dwelling units per acre increase. And then I referenced the total units in my opening. Moving from there, I'll just highlight transportation infrastructure at the bottom of page 5, but then also I'll go ahead and move over to, the bottom of page 2 and move over to the top of page 5. And I'll just read this statement just for to try to quicken things up a little. But the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and Warren County Public Works Department preliminarily reviewed the proposal, and if the application is approved, KYTC and Warren County Public Works are requiring that a traffic impact study be completed and submitted for review prior to the application for a site development plan. Previously, TIS, a traffic impact study, was going to be required for the future land use map amendment. Then that was, I guess, changed to now at the zone change level. Well, now that has been changed to once the development plan or prior to the development plan application be submitted. So the applicant did agree only to this requirement in the RS1D and RM4 portions. However, the public, the school, if you will, has to have a traffic impact study themselves prior to they build that. So we just wanted to mention that. So it'd be related to development only. The density I mentioned, I'll move back to page 3 in the middle, in the site design and compatibility review. A couple typos, so I'll just read into the record that starting with the, I guess, second sentence, existing and approved densities in the area range from 0.09 dwelling units per acre to 11.93 dwelling units per acre. The proposed density for the RM4 portion of the development has increased since the previous Flume Amendment application that was considered by the Planning Commission in May. The previously proposed density was 12.39 dwelling units per acre. The overall proposed density was 10.44 dwelling units per acre. Now the overall density that's currently proposed is 11.67 dwelling units per acre, including a density of 4.23 dwelling units per acre for the RS1D portion of the development, and a density of 14 dwelling units per acre for the RM4 portion of the development. So I just wanted to reread that to correct some typos in the staff report. So overall, really what we're talking about is an increase of 66 units in the RM4 portion of the proposal. So other than that, I'll just mention we did review the 18 items in the Focus 2030 category review. Those are outlined there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. The last thing I'll mention, last two things I'll mention, you should have a statement of opposition at your tables that came through email and should be at your desk. But other than that, staff is recommending approval of this proposal pending testimony and discussion of the items that we've mentioned. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? I have a question, Mr. Peterson. So the traffic impact study apparently is waived by the Kentucky Transportation Department until...
Yeah, I guess that's I guess postponed until a later point in the development. They are just going to require that prior to it goes through our development review process. So they would have that and I guess figure out what improvements would be necessary other than what's listed in the development plan conditions.
So a study will have to be done.
A study will have to be done. It'll just be prior to any permits would be issued and our final approvals given on the development review side.
And the historic house, we did not address that in the flume last time.
We did, it was mentioned, I don't remember exactly how much it was discussed, but.
And then the proposed open space development of the RM4 portion, is the staff okay with what has been proposed? I mean, it's on your,
Yes, I think we just, we have it as an item to discuss. The applicant may want to address that further. I don't know that we've talked a whole lot about a greenway being in the picture at some point in this area, which would link back to the parks, but the applicant may want to address that further.
lastly, looking at this, when we approve this in May, now the units are higher, and that would be a question for the applicant that was proposed in May, now it's actually higher.
Correct, yeah,
Is that
60, as by our count, it was 66 unit increase.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions?
I have one, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Has there been any discussion between the staff and the owner related to the historic structure since our last meeting? It may be a question for the developer, but
Yes, just in our normal correspondence, back and forth with emails or whatever. And of course, they get a copy of the staff report that mentions that as a item to consider.
okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Peterson? Thank you, Ben. Is the applicant here or the representative?
Chris Davenport, 921 College Street, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Good evening, Commissioners. Here on behalf of Chandler Properties and Mr. Chandler, I want to address a few things that I think we need to clean up. I'll say at the outset, this is a pretty big development with 4 different sets of DPCs. So as we worked through this in the last really month or so with staff, was not just coordinating my client, but also Warren County Schools. They're kind of the unseen partner here. They're not here today, but we want to make sure that the public DPCs, the DPCs applicable to the school, were agreeable to Warren County Schools, because ultimately they're going to be held to those DPCs. So the first thing I want to address is, and you all have talked about it, that's the traffic impact study requirement. When this project first started, there were a set of improvements that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and the Warren County Public Works wanted to see. And I'll bring your attention in those DPCs. If you look at in your staff report, page 7. DPC number 3. Excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong set. 1, 2, 3. No, I want to talk about the GB portions, Ben. So on page 1, 2, 3, page 6. My pages aren't listed. Page 6, item number 9 at the very bottom. If you can find that, it starts out, no property shall have direct access upon 31W. Those were the improvements that the Transportation Cabinet originally wanted. Since the flume change, they came back and they've indicated they don't really want that DPC. They want the development condition that you see about middle of this page on 13, which is the development condition that Ben read, and that is with regard to the RM4. So what we really need to do, I think this is what staff has requested, is replace number 9 in the GB with the identical language of 13 that you see in the RM4. That change was made to the other set of conditions, but it was omitted in the GB conditions.
So y'all are gonna do whatever Public Works tells you you have to
Exactly,
do.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's true for the general business, for the RM4 and the RS1D. Now, the public's a little different. And the reason the public's a little different is I submitted that same condition to Warren County Schools. And they didn't really want that condition. So if you go to page 7, the next page, DPC3 is the condition that Warren County Public Schools drafted and wanted. And what it says is, basically what it says is that the roads up to the school's roadway, right here, will be constructed prior to the school. Obviously, you can't build a school on this tract of land without any roadway getting to it. So the boulevard has to be constructed prior to the school. And put another way, we can't pull permits to do that until our development conditions on these properties are satisfied, including the traffic study and the waiver. So that is to say it's a two-step process when it comes to the school. Also, the school's subject to their own Department of Education traffic study. So I feel like with laying that out there that way, I think that satisfies what all the transportation authorities wanted and really what the staff were suggesting. That should have been included in the GB. It just, the old development condition stuck around there. Secondly, in the general business, I want to propose a new DPC 15 that reads, developer shall offer for donation any salvageable materials from the existing structure to Habitat for Humanity Restore or similar philanthropic organization prior to the demolition of same. That is with regard to the existing home. Staff has mentioned that. That did come up at the Flume hearing. There was discussion of that. That was one of the items that I told the commission that even if we committed to that at the Flume, it couldn't bind the property until we got here, and that it was a discussion proper for tonight. And I've talked with Mr. Chandler. His intention is not to get rid of that anytime soon, but I cannot tell you that he's committed to maintaining it in perpetuity. Frankly, given the age, the nature of the structure, it is completely probably impossible to convert that to a commercial use. So that's what we can. That's all we can offer on that. Lastly, in the public, we need a new DPC number 12, Mr. Moore, which would be identical to the RS1D development condition number 4. That's sinkhole mitigation. That was included in all the other DPCs. It was just omitted from that set. So with those, I think we have addressed really all we can do. The other thing that was mentioned by Ben is the proposed open space and recreational amenities with regard to the single-family homes, the RS1D section. As a part of these conditions and as a part of the development plan generally, all of these areas will be connected by sidewalks that will be connected to the school, that will be connected to the recreational outdoor facilities at the school, that will also be connected to the Greenways Trail that the developer is committed to, that will ultimately get these folks to the existing park, Buchanan Park, and all the amenities that are already out there in this part of the county. So we think with those things in mind that we've addressed those concerns and made sure that those amenities are available. In the RM4 section, we have the pool, the clubhouse, and all of those things. With regard to what I would consider a slight increase in the number of units, since we were here at the Flume, there has been substantial architectural and engineering work done on this development that has allowed the layout to change somewhat, has allowed for some slight change in the orientation and the nature of the buildings where we've increased that unit count. I will simply say that, frankly, this helps meet the housing needs, getting a few more units on the property will help meet the housing needs and will not significantly change really the impact on the area. As a percentage of the overall development, I see the change to be rather insignificant. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have about this. It's a very complex development. It's got 4 sections to it, so you may well have some questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Davenport, in regard to the property that's on the National Register of Historic Places, what is the law related to that? If someone buys property where there's a historic site, do they need a letter or something from the National Register in reference to that?
I'm looking at the staff.
Okay.
Because you've gone beyond my pay grade, I believe, Commissioner Starks.
Commissioner Stark, so there's not a requirement for homes on the National Register to go through any kind of review process locally. If it was locally designated, they would be required to do kind of a certificate of appropriateness application for its demolition. But as it's just on the National Register, it doesn't necessarily have any like local requirements or protections.
All right, thank you. You've answered my question.
Mr. Davenport, I have a question. You know, Mr. Chandler will do a great job of anything he does. And just as a commissioner, I have a question that, you know, we looked at this flume. We know it needs, Bowling Green needs more houses. So explain again why, yeah, we need more units. That was your statement, that we need 66 more units because of the housing. But why was that not addressed in the first flume?
Well, at the first flume, we had a concept plan. And when the concept plan had a number of units in it, and I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but at the flume hearing, most of what we discussed with regard to this concept was the scale and the nature of the buildings. You may remember, unlike, I think this is the first application I've ever been involved in where you have a height minimum on some things, and you have height maximums. The school has a minimum height, and the other buildings have a maximum height. And so I will just simply say this. When the concept changed, the unit count changed. And it changed, and it's up to you all to decide, frankly, you know, when you talk about compatibility, does that make a significant difference? I don't think it does. I think what you've asked me is why has it changed? It's just changed because when they redid their concept and they have some slightly differently designed buildings, they were able to do that and keep the open space requirements. Did not change from in the RM4 between that application and this one. The RM4 or the open space that Ben talked about is in the single family, not the multifamily. The multifamily has a condition of a minimum of 40% open space, I believe. And that was maintained between the two concepts.
I think it's fair to say the RM4 density of 14, is that correct, Ben? It is lower than what RM4 is. I mean, that's almost an RM3 density.
Well, and really, there's no height for the high density flume, which this property is. And I haven't looked back, but the biggest reason we asked for high density in the flume was not the numbers. It was the size of the buildings. It was the 3-story structures. High density flume would allow much more dense and still be compatible with that flume. And of course, we didn't change, the size of the structures height-wise has not changed between the two concepts.
Engineering just allowed you to get another building or two.
Correct.
I think the engineering has changed. We were at, correct me, Mr. Peterson, if I'm wrong, we were at X number of units, now we were at 14, now we're at 17?
No, we were at 11 and now.
Okay.
Well,
So
we were at 12.3.
12 and 12.3 and now we're at 14.
Correct, which is less than a 10% increase. Well, and so, Commissioner Warren, so you understand, when I say the engineering has not changed, I'm talking about the scale, the bulk, the size of the buildings. They have not, we didn't even change those DPCs, they remain the same.
You're talking about the engineering on the land has allowed.
Correct, how these structures are laid out on the property.
Do the unit size size of each individual didn't change?
No. I do need to get Mr. Chandler to agree those DPCs at some point if y'all don't have any further questions of me.
Commissioners, any other questions before Mr. Chandler comes up here? All right, thank you. Mr. Chandler, if you come to the microphone, please. Your name and address, please, sir.
David Chandler, 1465 Overlook Court.
Swear to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
David, did you hear the three conditions that I offered? I'm gonna just summarize them again. That our traffic development conditions on the GB will be the same that we have for the RM4 and the RS1D. In other words, you'll either get the traffic study prior to development, or it will be waived. Did you hear that?
Yes.
And that we will agree to donate any materials from the existing home prior to its demolition.
Yes.
And then lastly, that on the public, the school section, any sinkholes would be mitigated in accordance with Warren County Public Works standards.
Yes.
Do you agree on all those?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, is there anyone in the audience tonight that has questions or opposition to this request? All right, hearing none, we call for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with a condition upon a general development plan, docket number 2023-34Z County, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with objective and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further requests include motion to include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vitale? Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Drain? Chair Warren?
Yes, ma'am. The motion is approved and goes to Warren County Fiscal Court for final approval. Our next item tonight is 2023-52Z County, City County Planning Commission, the applicant, and Hulen and Sylvia Hill. The property owners have filed an application to rezone approximately 0.84 acres located at 0 Martinsville Road from ag to RE residential state in order to remove the split zoning that is on the property now.
This is another example of where they just changed property lines, and it's another cleanup of the zoning lines to match the property lines. But
All right.
be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Peterson? All right, thank you. Would call for a motion, please.
Make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment, docket number 2023-52Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing. Second.
Before we call the roll, Ms. Warren.
Oh, yes.
If we could note in the record that there was no one present who wanted to speak in opposition or to.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Ham. Is there anyone here that has opposition to this request, or the applicant have anything they'd like to say, or? Hearing none. Thank you, Ham. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Commissioner Drain? Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Warren?
Yes, ma'am. The motion is approved, goes to Warren County Fiscal Court for final approval. Do we have any new business, Mr. Peterson? All right, we'll see everybody in September. Thank you all for being here tonight.